Well, and I think the biggest question is, okay, you've got one guy leaving, right? The linebacking core, and Drew White. He's leaving to go to the
Well,
next
of the starters,
of the
yes.
start. That's what I was referring to. Yep, he's leaving to move on to whatever's next for him, and so you've got all this what we think is great talent on the depth chart at linebacker. You had a major injury going into the preseason of what was a potential was a
Well,
starter, right?
two potential
Um,
starters. Shane
yep,
Simon also got hurt
that's a good point. And Shane Simon obviously has moved on as
to
well.
Pitt, and then
To
Isaiah Pryor Rover also is gone, and
yes,
Paul Mawala also got injured. He was going to be a part of the rotation.
he's transferring.
He's transferring because he wasn't invited. He wasn't offered a fifth year,
Gotcha,
and Isaiah Pryor was not offered a sixth year. My
gotcha,
understanding is
gotcha.
so. You lost four guys from the roster, but because of all the injuries you mentioned last year, Vince, a lot of other guys got opportunities.
Absolutely. And so now you're looking at you've got the guys coming back that were starters, the guys that were injured are coming back as well, or one of the guys that was injured is coming back, and the depth. And so you've got what the present is at the linebacker position, and then you've got what the potential for the future at the linebacker position
Mm-hmm.
could be. There's
Right,
not
because there's four really talented
yeah.
guys that just showed up on campus, and that's the intriguing thing too. And we'll get to the freshmen, at the end of the show. But the linebacking core is getting a huge influx of talent
Yeah,
compared to where it was last year,
no question.
because it's not just the four freshmen, but I kind of count Maris Luafau as one of those guys.
He
He
didn't play
got
it
so
down.
early in fall camp.
He didn't play it down, right?
You're adding five really talented players into this mix. And then, we'll get into, Prince Collie. There's a lot of potential here. Somebody had made a comment, and I want to pull this up, Vince, because it's really appropriate to say. It's from Alan English said this. He said, "Hey, all, it's safe to say that this position group has the greatest distance between its floor and ceiling for 2022 on the defense."
I like that.
I think that's spot on, because there's so many question marks that I think the floor is pretty low at linebacker. We don't know if Maris Luafau can stay healthy. We don't know if,
Hope so, yeah.
certain guys can play. We don't know what kind of jump Prince Collie is going to make. Can the freshman help? Can Bo Bauer overcome the things that have kept him from getting into the starting lineup? Can JD I mean, there's so many question marks.
Sure.
Who's the flipping position coach going to be?
And that's
The
huge.
floor is pretty low.
Yeah.
And unlike cornerback, there's not that proven commodity that you can at least rely on that guy to be a standout like you can with Cam Hart. So even though the other cornerback position's a question mark, you've got one solidified. It's safety. You've got the transfer coming in from Northwestern that you know is at least going to be a good player. There's a level of confidence in Ramon Henderson, right? So there's at least you kind of know what the floor is, and the floor at safety is going to at least be solid. It's going to at least be good, I think. Linebacker could end up being the biggest weakness on the team.
Could be.
It could also end up being a strength of the defense.
Absolutely.
And so to Alan's point, that's what makes this such a question mark in my view, Vince, is because there is such a huge gap in what we know and what it could be to what meaning like if these questions don't get answered in the affirmative, this is going to look bad. And then compare it to what it could be if, boxes start getting checked. Maris gets back to full health and looks like the guy he was. Because, we interviewed Coach Freeman last year, and I'll share this now, because the season's over with and some guys have left. But, we talked for just briefly right afterwards just about the linebackers and who was looking good and all that. And this was right before Maris got hurt. And he was like, "Look, the guy with the most talent and upside in my room is Marist. Like, he's got more talent than anybody we have at the position."
Right.
And then a few weeks later is when he got hurt. So
and look, we didn't get to see a ton of fall camp, but he was by far the star defensively. Again, outside of Kyle Hamilton, but he was limited, I believe, in fall camp. He didn't do.
Kyle was,
yeah.
He was coming off the ankle injury,
right? So Maris, anybody that watched those practices and walked away was like, okay, number 8's pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like that was obvious, and it was very disappointing when he got hurt with a season-ending injury,
right?
Because I think he could have been something special.
Well, and again, that's a lot. That's kind of where we get into what Alan was saying earlier, Vince, which is we think he would have been
Sure.
special. We haven't
Yeah.
seen him do it. And that's kind of where we get into the situation of we've got to find out what they will be, because there's this wide gap. And so that's what's really interesting about it. And I think